OOCS into a wider galaxy, Part 161, The Buzz on the Spin. Sir, the friends we didn't make the acquaintance of on our second-to-last world are here, Harold whispers to Observer Wu's eyes widen. Are you certain? A relative of mine on this station is a far better hunter and tracker than I, she described them. From her tone, this is the first time she's seen them. We've been followed, Observer Wu says, which leads to several questions, which I want answers to. Use a light touch and get them, he orders, and Harold nods. Yes, sir, Harold says, standing back. Good man. Incidentally, I have a relative on station. Yzma, she's in Sector 7, rules it from my understanding. She's an in-law from my baseline brother and has adopted one of my clone siblings. I think she has another human-blooded child, too. She also helped me shortly after I came out of the cloning tube. I owe her at the very least a visit. How did she help you? She got me through the sheer mental what the fuckery of knowing I'm a clone with the original's memories, but distinctly not the original. It's not easy knowing that you were made to be a thing and not a person. She got my head on straight. You were cloned, young man. Why? Janet asked gently. Testing. They wanted to see what chemicals and what concentrations of those chemicals would harm a human, Harold says, and Janet looks horrified, then gives him a hug. You poor thing. Are you even a full year old yet? No, I'm not. Oh, you poor little lamb. So young and life has clearly been so hard. Thank you, but I'm fine? Oh, no, young man. There's no being fine with such a thing. Not so soon. Such things take time to heal from, and you're simply not old enough to have lived so long. I promise you I'm over it. I spoke to and came to peace with my original, and am now building a life beyond him. That's part of what this trip is about. Not only am I an insider observer who can question at will, not only can I serve to help defend the inevitable, but it's taking me from place to place and do something that I, as Herbert, always wanted to do, which is go from world to world. He's too tied down in his duties on Centris for more than the occasional vacation. He's never been here, but he wants to take a look. I get to do that instead. I'm glad to hear it, young man. Now, before you go, I'm going to make you something, so find a seat and relax. You're going to be fine. Ma'am, thank you, but, Harold begins to say, and she bustles him onto a padded stool. Oh, no, no. Little children get free treats from me, and a man less than a year old needs them. Wait right there. Observer Wu is taking notes with a very amused look on his face. Fuck you. This place is supposed to be where strength and guts matter, not where stupid rich twits get pandered to by gutless station staff. Big words from the bimbo I beat like a drum, Hoagie replies as he drags the idiot into a holding cell. You can't keep me in here. You've got rules, rules that you follow, rules I know you can't break without breaking the agreements and draw of this station. You really don't get it, do you? The only real rule of this station is that this station follows only its own rules. Little Miss Eris is here to buy illegal drinks at a massive markup, get plowed in ways that she'd get in all the trouble back home for if she tried, and watch some brutal fights, pissing money the whole time, and leaving a trail of wealth behind her until she tires of being Little Miss Naughty and goes home. Hell, if she starts to feel bad about it, then she can go to Sector 8, cry in a confessional, and then go home feeling both sullied and cleansed. That's the way she and her little social group of overly rich idiots have done this for the past century. And if you think that we're going to let some opportunistic, short-sighted little bitch get in the way of all that money, then you've got another thing coming. This is ending one of two ways. You and your posse swear to stay away from our mutual money bag of a friend. You don't get in any more trouble, and she goes home with stories of adventure which lure in more of them. You don't get in trouble, and we don't throw you out for shitting where we eat. Or you do something stupid and we do something sadistic. I don't think it's a hard choice. Not much of a choice at all. No, it's not. But this is the choice on a station like this. You avoid giving us hell and we let you stay. If you can't stop yourself, then you go out the airlocks and we scrap your junker of a ship. Hey, the Bloody Beak is a top-of-the-line mound of scrap and junk if you keep pushing us, Hoagie says, withdrawing his laser cutter and extending it. The telescoping pole begins glowing on one side to reveal it as the powerful but crude cutting implement rated for ship hulls. The safeties normally found on such devices are noticeably absent. I'll personally hack it to pieces with this. Now I do get it. Little Miss Oblivious is wearing more than some people see in years. But we've been gently squeezing her dry so she can have her silly little adventure time after time. But that's just... The posh place exists for a reason. You want to take someone hostage or pull a stunt like that? Do it someplace where the target's big mama isn't likely to send a literal fleet to get them back. What's the matter? Big bad pirate station scared of what some big girl is going to do? One of three things happen when you take a hostage. They pay the ransom, they ignore you, or they attack. Even if the odds are fair, you only have a 1 in 3 chance of making money. But in all three situations, Octaren Spin loses. But let's put that aside. Let me ask you a more interesting question. Oh, she asks as he douses and retracts his cutting bar. What do you do after? Say you get a solid billion in a payout. You're still not out of the debris field, sweetheart. You need to either collect the physical payment, or you need to let them know the number of an account to deposit it to. One they can monitor and use to track you. Now, what makes you think that the very rich person you just seriously pissed off isn't going to take a large amount of cash, possibly the very same cash in the account you just gave them access to, in order to put a price on your head? Oh shit. Yeah, hostage situations rarely end well, and rarely end at all. Not without bodies. So calm the hell down. Take a nap and then get yourself some drinks in Sector 3 when this cell opens in 2 hours, okay? 2 hours? Woman, you're ageless. 2 hours is barely enough time for a half-decent nap. He protests and she snarls at him. He reaches through the bars and flicks her nose. Calm the fuck down before you get into a knife fight with a snikt or something. Pissy bitches don't last long in places like this. 2 hours is time enough for our moneymaker to move on and things to calm down. Stay out of posh place for a week, and it'll be like nothing happened. But I'm setting a timer on your cells. Automatic release in 2 hours. If I run into you again, and it's not just a coincidence, then I'm not going easy again. Get it? But this is... I'm being nice here, lady. I won't be nice twice. He says, inputting the codes to get things down. Hopefully you won't be seeing me again. And keep your stupid out of Sector 4. I know everything that happens there. Who are you? I'm just a problem solver on this station. Remember that. He tells them before leaving the holding cells and starting to head out. Hello, farmer boy. A Volpir woman immediately greets him the second he leaves, her nose plugged with diamond-studded stoppers so that she doesn't get a whiff of his pheromones. Not now, he says, walking past the woman, glittering gown and all. She starts and then starts following him. Wait, we do need to talk. I'm not in the mood for one of your boss's games. If she wants to talk to me, she has my communicator's extension and can get a hold of me at any hour of the day. I'm not going to cool my heels in her waiting room when she can just talk to me. She only wants to thank you for your help. No, she wants to try and style on me with gold and jewels while looking gracious at the same time, and I'm not in the mood for such a thing. We have one of the 2 cruel space-capable warships in the galaxy in orbit, around the spin, and official ambassadors and observers going around. I don't have the time or inclination for stupid games. I need to convince the army of super soldiers that this station packed to the gills with petty criminals of all stripes would not look better as burning wreckage. They wouldn't. Not unless someone convinces them to. But considering the stupidity I just put away, can you rule it out? Truly? No. Then if you'll excuse me, I need to get moving, Hoagie says. Eyes unseen make note of the entire interaction, and he is followed out. I'm back. Where's Scrawny Harold? Hoagie asks as he arrives at his mother's diner. He's off to speak with someone in Sector 7, family apparently. Observer Wu says as he sips at his mug of coffee. Some would mock him for having so much cream and sugar in it, but he preferred his drinks something he could down quickly and full of energy to work with. The stereotype of police officers liking sweets more than is healthy has a damn good reason behind it. You need explosive energy to deal with the snap situations that they have to deal with. Isma then? I'm half tempted to chase after him and see how that turns out. Why? She's a huntress. That's more than just chasing something down or lining up a sight with a rifle. She's very, very skilled with traps, and he's likely hanging upside down by his ankle with a tether around it, possibly dodging some equivalent to a banana cream pie being launched at him as he tries to untangle himself. She has a sense of humor. I must admit, if you did give in to temptation to rush over, I would follow, Observer Wu says with a comfortable sigh. So I've been having a lovely chat with your mother. Apparently you're a combination of a police officer and a crime lord? Let's be honest, sir, Hoagie says as he walks over to sit opposite of him. The difference between a member of law enforcement and organized crime is often which side has the government backing them, and sometimes not even that separates them. Tragically true. Corrupt officers can make it even more confusing. Exactly. I'm the sector head, a semi-official position. Basically, if the owner of the station wants something big to happen in this sector, the job is delegated to me. In return, I'm allowed to police and profit from this sector to a huge degree. My personal touch is to make sure that the people that want to be productive, moneymakers, and stable employment on the station have all the room and safety needed to do that without much in the way of limits. As such, we're up in food production and monetary gain. I also personally track down troublemakers and have become a well-known problem solver the station over. Really? People fear the floral shirts, he says with a straight face, and his mother starts giggling to the side. Impressively, the straight face remains. There is an ominous buzzing outside. And that's my breakover. Someone has stirred up the hive. He stands up and starts moving. Excuse me. A few quick steps out of the diner, and an undetectable presence dodges back as he breaks into a sprint and then dives off the platform and heads down to the docking level to deal with whatever and whoever thought it was a good idea to stir up trouble in Section 4. Observer Wu turns back from where he watched the man dive to what would be his doom on Earth, and then regards the boy's mother. So is effectively always in some kind of action movie now? Or is today exciting? Actually, bearing your arrival, it's been rather slow. Really? What would you call an exciting day then, Miss Eastman? Well, I think a wonderful example would be how my first week here ended. Oh? Do go on, please. OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 162. The Buzz on the Spin. Well, like any hectic day, it had begun like any other. It looked like it was only going to stand out due to how adorable my son was insisting on being. He had decided that a particular joke was ever fresh that morning, and he was mostly right. But it was entirely due to the fact that he's my son, and I love him. Nothing like some space coffee from Space Mom's newly opened space diner on this lovely space day, Hoagie says with a barely concealed snicker as she scrunched her eyes shut and tried not to laugh. Daniel, thank you for being my first customer and helping me set up this lovely diner, but please, stop, she says. But Mom, it's just some basic space slang. We just need to get you used to speaking space languages with the space people now that we both live in. His unending cascade of saying space whatever is cut off as his communicator goes off. Eastman. He listens for a bit and frowns. Okay, I'll be there. Something wrong? Spaceship in the space lane is not space answering the space phone. He starts to explain, and she shakes her head as she walks over and gently helps him out of his seat and slowly pushes him out the door as he keeps going with the silly joke. So anyways, I need to see what's going space over space there. And that's enough space, Daniel. Go out and get things done. But will you want to hear about my space adventures after Space Mom? Yes, Space Son, I do. Now go, you silly man. She chides him as she gently pushes him out of her new diner, then pauses and has a laugh as she realizes she called him Space Daniel by accident. Now the next part is due to the fact that Daniel told me what happened. So I hope there's no confusion on your part, Janet says. Don't worry, ma'am. I'm keeping pace with ease. Oh, good. Would you care for a refill on your coffee before we keep going? Oh, no, thank you. I drink too much caffeine as is. Don't we all? Janet asks. Anyways, my son had just left, and he, of course, started moving quickly. You've seen these boys in motion. You know that when they hustle, they really hustle. It wasn't to administration that Daniel had raced to. It was a shuttle bay, The doors out were already open with a force field shimmering a barely visible blue, and he touches at the spot on his arm where the mark of the Undaunted was branded onto him. All of the Undaunted station staff had taken the brand, and it had outright terrified other residents of the station. More than a few fights were broken up by removing the shirt and forcing one of the belligerent parties to feel the branding. No one wants to fight someone crazy enough to burn their very essence for an edge in battle. There's only one other Undaunted in the shuttle bay. Demon a pleasure, as always. The other man has a full foot and a half and several 100 pounds of raw muscle on him. More resembling a silverback on steroids than a normal human, a blurry photo of the man could easily be mistaken for Sasquatch if it ate nothing but pure protein. Good to see you, Hoagie. Did you get the full message, or were you only told to get over here in a hurry? Unidentified ship refusing to answer hails. Scans are showing both many life signs and 0 life signs, and only emergency life support is still on as it's drifted in from the nearest axiom lane. Daniel replies and Demon nods. That's about the sum of it. There's a slight update too. Demon says, leading him to the nearest shuttle, and Daniel pauses for some reason. We finished our scans of the ship. It's a huge bulk freighter with no apparent damage. Then why is it acting like a haunted derelict? Betting an admin, says Ghost. Ghost my ass, Daniel responds before pointing to another shuttle, painted bright red and streamlined. We'll take mine, it's better. You and your damn red car. Miss Eastman, I assure you that I can handle a little bit of crude language. Just because you can handle something doesn't mean you have to, she replies with a saintly smile. I'm sure, although I am curious as to which soldier has been nicknamed Demon of all things and why. Observer Wu notes. His name is Sergeant Joseph Ito. He earned his nickname during the ride through cruel space. Apparently, the lawyers of the Undaunted tried to see if they could legally own other people's souls, and he beat so many of them at their own game that he himself legally owned the souls of 10% of the entire ship, including a full quarter of the legal division before that was put a stop to. Janet explains and Observer Wu sighs. Of course he did. Please continue. All right, this is a clearly modified ship. The power readings in it show that there are some fairly hefty bits of madness going around in what should be internal cargo bays. Demon reads out and Daniel leans over to look at his screen. What the? That is odd. There must be something major in the central storage bay if it draws in this level of power even when deactivated. You think it's off? Could be some kind of partial shielding giving us lighter readings. Demon counters. Possible, but none of our sensors are picking up any of the kind of interference that any kind of scan shielding would put out. Any kind of known scan shielding, Galaxy's a big place. Point taken. Is the spin still trying to contact them? If the radio waves and communication beams were in the visible spectrum, we'd be half blinded by the light. Demon replies and Daniel considers. Well, the ship hasn't proven hostile despite having functional weapon systems. Are we still getting those ghost readings? Life signs flickering in and out? Yes, Demon replies and Daniel grins. All right, we're coming up to a shuttle bay. Still no response. Nothing. We could jump out the shuttle and land on the thing no problem, and still no response. All right, I'm engaging magnetic clamps. Let's get inside and get to the bridge. This sucker is tumbling to the spin, and if we don't have to break it apart, the better, Daniel says, and the hot red shuttle clamps to the side of the large ship. Communicator on and ready, Demon says, tucking his into a breast pocket with a hole cut into it to serve as a body camera. Daniel nods as he does the same as they both make their way to the airlock. The lack of air means nothing can be heard if not for their communicators. It also meant the tiny sounds of movement, of clothing rustling, and the whispery scrape of skin against a handle to manually force an airlock from the outside is incredibly loud in the micro-atmosphere surrounding each man. In less than a minute they're inside. Atmosphere rushes back in, and after they secure the outer airlock door, they force the inner airlock door. Emergency lights only. This place is really in low power mode, Demon notes as he looks around the extremely empty shuttle bay. But why? Almost all power comes from the axiom of the galaxy. These lights are only needed if for some reason the ship is in an area with low axiom density, Daniel asks. There are no good answers to that question. Demon says as he quickly pulls out and puts together a large rifle, the type most soldiers can only use on an emplacement or with a small team. Daniel begins assembling his own smaller weapon. His, however, has a pair of small attachments. What it lacks in firepower, it makes up for in a grenade launcher and a flashlight. He uses the flashlight to sweep the room looking for anything out of place. Neither man sees anything, and Demon nods to the exit into the main quarters of the ship. Both go to the sides of the door, and before they can force it, it opens automatically. Both men check the hallway, and only then do they check the controls of the door. The doors are still active for some reason, and their sensors are in far more spectrums than normal. The cameras here sense things in ultraviolet, Demon states. Not anymore, they don't, Daniel says, and Demon follows the beam of his flashlight to reveal a destroyed camera. Some kind of mutiny and then abandonment? Their shuttle bay is empty after all. Possible. To the bridge. Daniel answers and both men start moving. We'll need to take a lift down a level. I studied the blueprints of these models. The bridge is more sensibly placed inside the superstructure rather than sitting on top. Thank God. Ships with windows of all things on them always make me want to scream in frustration. It's not that bad when they use things like a massive diamond pane or transparent aluminum. But yeah, windows are just asking for it 9 times out of 10. Demon agrees. The only times it's not is closer to a literal 1 in a million. It's good to see sensible ship design. Even if we are technically, Demon begins before cutting himself off and pointing his rifle back the way they came. Daniel covers the other direction without needing to be told, and there's a tense moment. False alarm, I think. Something is watching us. Hopefully it's just someone's pet or a basic AI or something, which just leads to further questions. People don't ditch perfectly good ships for no reason. I know, but I'd rather deal with some kind of stupid coincidence than a literal haunting, Demon states, and Daniel nods. Both men make it to the bridge without further interference and find the consoles on, but in a low power mode. Something is here, Daniel says as he brushes dust off a panel. He holds it up to a scanner. Skin cells, dead but relatively fresh. People are still here. They're probably in the maintenance tunnels, Demon replies as he smiles. No password, I'm in. It takes only a minute to get the ship's engines to fire again and change the vector of the whole thing. It's going to miss octane spin easily, and a few more precise firings of the engine means that it's going to stay near it as it travels with the universe in motion. Okay, that's our main problem dealt with. I'm opening up communications. Demon turns so fast he blurs and opens fire. There is the sound of screaming metal as a perfectly quiet but shoddily put-together drone is shredded under his hail of bullets. His weapon has an axiom-based silence effect, so that despite him spraying hundreds of bullets in that single burst, only the sound of his target and the ship behind it being slammed into by his ammo can be heard. Daniel's flashlight illuminates things. Even as Demon rushes up to the side of the door, the scrap pile came in through. There is a pause, and he nods to his fellow soldier, who shines his light down the hall. Clear, Daniel says after a little bit, and Demon glances out for a moment with a growl. I don't like this. Keep the light going down the hall. Demon orders, moving away from the door and going back to the main console. A few more commands and there is a link. All right, the spin has access to... Daniel sighs as Demon pauses in his explanations. Don't tell me. They just shut down the connection from the station to the ship. All right, I won't, Demon replies, and Daniel sighs. Of course, Daniel remarks before calling down the hallway. I don't suppose whoever's doing this has the guts to show their face? There is, of course, no response, because things can never be that easy for her little boy. There is a ringing sound as a customer arrives. Oh, excuse me, sir. I need to see to... Oh, no. If I knew there was a well-aged touch of man here, I'd have come flying rather than on foot, the snick woman says as she buzzes over and leans to the side. Oh, a serious type? I don't even have the curse of my people and my mouth is watering. Tell me, who do I have to talk to see about getting a nibble? Ma'am, no. I have my duties. I will not be marrying or having fun with anyone. So please stop now before you embarrass yourself. Embarrassed myself? Oh, it's her, isn't it? She asked, nodding to Janet. No, he's actually here to listen to stories about my son and his co-workers, Janet remarks before tossing a wink the Snick's way. His employers figure a pretty face will open more doors than a plasma cannon. They didn't need to, though. I'm always happy to gush about my little boy. Fair enough. All right, Mr. Serious, if you want a good time. She moves to kiss Observer Wu on the side of the head, and he moves away. Fine. She backs off, thankfully. She takes a seat at the counter with a laugh, and Observer Wu gives his bodyguards a furious look. He gets some grins back. 你为什么不做任何事情? And why did you not do anything? He asks in Mandarin. 唯一受到威胁的是您的美德。我们是保镖，而不是公鸡。The only thing under threat was your virtue. We are bodyguards, not cockblocks. Is the response from one bodyguard as the other looks upset at him. Observer Wu's eyes narrow. 你是个白痴，先生，我可以看到他不会走得太远。当他俯身时，我伸手去拿枪，直到他退缩时才停下来。Sir, I could see that she wouldn't go too far. I was reaching for my gun when she leaned in and only stopped when she backed off. The other replies and Observer Wu nods. That is a much better answer. OOCS, Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 163, The Buzz on the Spin. Am I missing something? Janet asks, as there's a quick debate in a language she does not understand, and then they look to her and sigh. A touch of miscommunication and misunderstanding. Observer Wu says in English before turning to his bodyguards. I appreciate not wanting to escalate the situation, but nothing, sir. We're not your maids. We're not your servants. We're your bodyguards. This is a pirate station. If we escalate, they will match us. If they match us, we have to escalate further, which if they don't match will bring further attention to us, attention that will match us, and then we have to keep escalating to keep ahead of the curve. I don't want to fight an entire sector, and I doubt you want us to fight an entire sector. Could you fight an entire sector? The Snick asks in heavily accented English, and every human present turns to her. I have a gift for languages. I see, and they may very well be able to, Observer Wu says, and she raises her eyebrows in an impressed look and raises her newly acquired drink in a toast before turning away with a smile. Right, well, let's move past this unpleasantness. Would you like for me to continue telling you about that exciting day my son had at the end of my first week here? I'd like to hear it, the Snick woman states, and Observer Wu looks to her. She's grinning over her shoulder at them. Please, no interruptions, ma'am. I'm actually recording this for others to hear, and the less unofficial commentary, the less issues there will be. Observer Wu says, and she nods. He then nods to Janet. All right then. Now Joseph, also known as Demon, and my Daniel, who he calls Hoagie, were on the not-quite-abandoned ship, a hostile battle drone downed and smoldering on the deck flooring, and someone else clearly in the control systems from somewhere other than the bridge, countermanding whatever commands they had to give. It was clear that there wouldn't be any more progress made until they could scare out and confront whoever the mysterious crew was. But it wasn't anything either man had been trained for or expected. Did your scanner give you anything more specific than skin cells? Demon asked before going back to the main console. It's processing. Dead skin is rotting skin, so the sample has already decayed and is decaying further even now, Hoagie says as he keeps his light train down the hall. After a minute, Demon nods. Get something? I got them to lock me out, but I got deep enough to get an idea of where they might be. Demon says as he pulls a device out of a belt pouch and inserts it into a data chit slot. This will keep them distracted. It'll constantly try to hack in and set a link to the spin, meaning our hacker has to keep working, keep busy, and if they don't, then we get control of the ship. Smart. I'm not called Demon for my fighting prowess. It would be easier if you were, Hoagie says, and Demon gives him a look. What? I'm not sure if I should be insulted. Well, how about we clear this mess while you work that out? Probably wise, Demon says, and he nods down the corridor. The layout of the ship says we go that way, take a right, and then go down. There's a main computer mainframe down there. It's where our hacker was. Not sure if they count as a hacker if it's their ship. Fair enough. Demon returns as Hoagie takes the lead down the hallway. How's the processing on that dust going? Hoagie checks it and frowns. It's not mammalian. That's as far as it's gotten. Not very far. No, it's not. It's almost like the sample is in bad condition or something. Funny that. Demon agrees as Hoagie tucks away the scanner again. Doors open and close until they reach the lift for the next level down. It opens with a rusty creak and the sound of heavy movement. No. Agreed, Hoagie says as he sweeps the area with his flashlight and finds the latch for a maintenance hallway. We'll take the ladders. Demon unlatches the panel, and then both men move as something inside the maintenance hallway moves itself. But it's gone. We're not going to hurt you. Calm down, Hoagie calls into the tunnel. Then both men move again as danger spikes. Hoagie ducks and Demon's arm snaps out. At the level where Hoagie's neck was is now a rusted saw blade that Demon had caught between his fingers. Okay, now I'm mad. We're all mad here, Demon quotes offhandedly as he examines the corroded weapon. A rusted circular saw blade? Why would such a thing even be on this ship? I don't see any markings to hint it was launched, Hoagie says slowly, standing up. Nor do I, which means it was thrown, by hand or by axiom. Someone threw this right at you. Demon says slowly, before throwing it against the nearby wall, and the weapon shatters. I don't trust the ladders, and no one with a brain will take the lifts. Phasing, Hoagie says, and Demon nods before both men suddenly drop through the floor and down to the next level. As they land, there is movement, and both of them point their weapons in opposite directions. Garuna Dardan, one of them shouts in a deep bass voice. Others take it up, and for only a moment, the entire ship echoes with the two words. Then silence, complete and total. There is a chime on Demon's communicator. We caught that. We're trying to translate what Garuna Dardan means, but we've already got 50 hits in just as many languages. More are piling in. Narrow it down to the ones that actually make sense, Demon orders. We will when the list is finished. Do you need backup? We're in a tight area with a lot of blind corners. The bigger our group, the easier we are to ambush. Double-check the recall chamber, though. We may need out at any moment. Just did, but I'll triple-check it. Copy that, proceeding with search, Demon says. Have we narrowed down the biosignal? Hang on, Hoagie says as he checks his scanner again. I suppose I should have expected something involving Cloaken, but there's something else. Whoever these people are, they have distinct Cloaken genetic markers, but are not Cloaken themselves. Likely they have Cloaken parents. Let's see if I can't find another sample. His light sweeps the area as he and Demon quickly gesture back and forth to quietly debate which way to go. They head to the right and then pause before the corner. Hoagie raises an eyebrow and points to his mouth before miming speech. Demon nods. We just want to talk. Your ship came out of nowhere on a crash course to our station. No one is hurt, but we are a little annoyed. Please just talk to us. Liar, a voice screams out and Hoagie shifts to the side, and Demon ducks as Anthersaw Blade screams through the air to shatter on the wall behind them. All right, I'm done being nice. Go! They charge around the corner. Hoagie hits something somewhere hard and the shadows shift as he pumps Axiom to resist it. It pumps Axiom right back and throws him back. Demon hits it right after with a shoulder tackle that has literally sent space shuttles skidding and stops dead. There was only a woof of escaping air as the darkness shifts. He grabs the camouflaged hand and holds it back while planting his gun into the stomach that's at head height to him. We tried being nice, Demon states. Then he shifts, pulling on the hand and pushing with his gun. The enormous thing shifts and Hoagie shifts as he flicks a switch on his flashlight. Its main bulb deactivates as another activates. The area plunges mostly into darkness as the black light flares out and illuminates the pale blue glow of the feathers and bones of the absolutely gigantic man. Demon's gun is pressed right between his eyes. There are gasps in the darkness. Hoagie and Demon are surrounded. Hoagie then slowly reaches into his shirt and pulls out a small device he tosses to Demon. They both take a step back from the now illuminated man as Demon activates his newly given blacklight. He clips it on his shirt right next to the camera. Hoagie then slowly sweeps the surrounding area. Standing upright, they would make a canador crane their neck to see them. The silhouette says Gathera. The stealth says something else. Control back on the station says. Not cloaken? Hoagie asks. Cloaken traits, yes. Normal ones don't have feathers or this stealth ability. Files here say they're a hunk-heavy species with 5 to 100 male to female. Somehow, that overlaps the fact that they're one of the largest sentient in the galaxy, with only races like the Lidris commonly growing larger. Very physically deadly, but not unbreakable. What really makes them stand out is that their digestion is at a higher level than human standard, albeit axiom-based. So they're even more null vulnerable because without axiom, their internals get more or less instantly shredded. Control reads out. Why haven't we encountered them before? Think historical Vikings. These people are always on the move and chasing profit. They want money and usually get it through trade. If they can't, they'll take it by force. So they're normally here and gone within an hour or two. We've got 3 ships with their kind taking off as we speak. And do you stealthy boys have anything to add, or are you going to keep up the shy routine? Hoagie asks out loud. Then he scrunches his eyes together and opens them again to double-check what he just noticed. That part isn't glowing, so he assumed they were covered up, but he needs to know. Are you all naked? He asks in demon facepalms. What? We are. The one still on the floor says. Why? There are no clothes to wear. He says as if it was the most obvious thing in existence. Okay, this has gone from annoying to weird and is racing to stupid without a pause. Answer these questions. Who are you? Why are you here? Why are there no clothes to wear? And what do you want? Demon demands, and there's a sigh from the one on the ground. I am 242-3-4111. I do not know where here is. There are no clothes to wear because there were never any found that would not tear. I want to live. He answers, and Hoagie and Demon look to each other. All right, get up. We're not going to hurt you unless you try to hurt us. You hurt me. 242-3-4111 states as he rises up and up and up. Why is your name a number? Hoagie asks. Why would it not be a number? Could you not waste our time? We are going to get the answers anyways. All you're doing is making it annoying, not deterring us. I am not wasting your time. I am answering your questions. You are using a trick called the mathematician's answer, where a question is answered truthfully, but so lacking in necessary details and context as to be completely worthless as an answer. Stop that, Hoagie says. I have a number for a name, for that is all the name I have. My number is Pod, Cycle, and Order of Emergence. 242-3-4111, says, causing Hoagie and Demon to share an alarmed look. Are you a clone, sir? Categorically no. 242-3-4111 answers. Were you artificially created? Yes. Can you show us the pods? No. Why not? Cycle 4 has begun. We keep them safe. 242-3-4111 answers. How many pods are there in total? 5,000. Has there been any loss of life from previous cycles? Yes. Cycle 1 is almost entirely decimated in the pursuit of liberation. 100 remain. Cycle 2 was reduced to half. Cycle 3 lost nearly 100. Cycle 4 will be safe and whole. So 13,000 at most. All right, we can handle that. And how do you intend to handle us? 242-3-4111 demands. Number 2, 42-3-4111. Would you like to apply for refugee status among the Undaunted? What are the Undaunted? A human-founded, multi-species military organization that is spread out and spreading further throughout the galaxy. What do you offer? Safety, personhood, protection both physical and legal, training, pay, equipment, and perhaps most importantly of all, dignity and purpose. Dignity, one of the Gathara mutters. Purpose, 242-3-4111 says, rolling the word in his mouth. What kind of purpose? To excel, to be better, to be your greatest self, and to make the galaxy greater for your being in it. We are protectors, we are warriors, and we are exemplars. but that is just barely skimming the surface as to who and what we are. A quick pause, please, Observer Wu states, and Janet blinks. Yes? What is it? Why have I not heard about them? This happened after I got here, so you would have already had your initial contact, and the Undaunted have a lot of refugees and recruits. Absorbing some 13,000 Gathara with cloaken traits can be easily lost in the recruiting from day to day. Apologies, I forgot how much that organization was ballooning. Come on, what happened next? The snicked woman begs from her seat. Your son and his big friend were surrounded by a whole crowd of bigger men who were completely naked. I need to know more. OOCS Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 164. The Buzz on the Spin. I assure you, young lady, my son did not engage in any sort of activity, as you seem to be. Then what about the other guy? Big on a human scale is tiny for a Gathera. Did he get it? Number, from my understanding, Joseph is not the sort. The snick sighs in disappointment at that. Hopefully the poor souls got pants in short order. Observer Wu notes, and Janet nods. They did, I helped a bit with that even. Tell me, how common is it for cloning to be such an issue? This is the second mass cloning event that the Undaunted have been involved in since my ship and I have breached the edge of cruel space. Wu, sir, you have to remember that the galaxy is a very, very big place, with so many people and opportunities that effectively everything that could happen in it is happening in it, and multiple instances at the very least. But they're spaced so widely apart that you might go your entire life without encountering any of them even once. Meeting a new species for the first time is so common that there's a shorthand so people don't accidentally kill each other when having a new species on your ship. BMO, bipedal mammal omnivore. Humans have that label for a reason, because it's needed. And as such, organizations that are trying to be part of many different things run into those differently things at a very high rate compared to most. People tend to find what they're looking for, and if they admit it or not, the Undaunted are usually looking for trouble. I see, thank you for the explanation, Observer Wu says. So was there anything else happening at the time? I doubt the men working as home-based control were sitting idle as Joseph and Daniel were making the acquaintance of the clone men. Of course they weren't, but I have to go off a bit of guesswork here. I was only told what happened to my son and what he told me. It's not perfect. Just do what you can. A fair approximation to get the general idea is good to have. Captain, we're having a last-second message from the station. I'm putting it through. Her communications officer states, and Captain Halterak raises an eyebridge. And it's about unconventional profit, her officer says, and she doesn't need to see the teeth to know there is a massive smile there. As you were, she answers. Then the screen lights up. The Tret-looking station administrator nods to them. I'll get to the point. The large ship that just came in has a population of modified Gathara clones on them. A large amount men. It's not a profit in money, but reverse course. We're heading back to the station. Halterak orders her crew. The administrator smirks. We're still talking to them and getting them to calm themselves. They don't even have names, just numbers. I and my associates believe the best thing for them would be to get them among their own people and learning what it means to be Gathara. Step away from the vats that are producing another 5,000 as we speak and be something. More are being produced? From what we can summarize, initial negotiations are a little prickly. They're understandably reluctant to talk. Wise of them, Captain Halterak states. Is our previous docking berth still available? It is. Until this business is resolved, the rental fee is waived. Good, she states, and the contact is cut. Clones, great. No way you know her thoughts, the snicked accuses. Ma'am, please, Observer Wu says, and the woman quiets down. He turns back to Janet. As you were saying? Back on the ship, both Demon and Hoagie were being escorted by the residents back up to the bridge. More and more of the formerly invisible Gathara revealed by the black lights. So full cloaken do not show up under these lights? Their natural illusions are much more thorough and account for them. You need to get them on the infrared spectrum for the heat that escapes them. They can't control that. I see. Would being reptiles not play into things? Normally it does help them, but their movement, And the energy from the axiom they take in heats them to being somewhat warmer than most environments, to say nothing of the habit of wearing clothing, giving a distinctive pattern. So advanced stealth is difficult. No, but every method of stealth has weaknesses and strengths. We could barely sense you without these lights, but we'd have a better impression of where Cloaken are with their distinct axiom signature. We have metamaterials that render a person covered in them completely invisible to axiom detection, or the senses of a being who uses axiom. But they're still there. Smoke moves around a gap. They still cast a shadow. Things like that are common stealth weaknesses. And if something like that is accommodated for, and the effect on axiom also compensated for, oh, there's always a slip-up. The axiom flows and shifts around us, like smoke in its own way. Finding an area of calm that doesn't seem affected by the surrounding axiom as much is the telltale sign of very, very good stealth. But some are so keen to such disturbances that they notice that oddity first. Really? 242-3-4111 asks in his role of unofficial speaker. They reach the bridge, and the ruins and scrapped remains of the combat drone are gone. Why did you use that thing anyways? A rusty rampaging robot with knives and the such is far less intimidating or dangerous than any of you. We were still hiding. Any species could produce that robot, but it would send a clear message as to you being unwelcome. Well, yes, but it more provoked than discouraged us. I imagine you are the type that is difficult to discourage. 2-4-2-3-4111 says, you imagine correctly, Demon states as he goes to the main controls. Now we're going to bring the power up in this thing and start talking to the station. I get that you're being careful, but swatting away an outstretched hand is just foolish. It is what this will cost us that I am concerned with. 2-4-2-3-4111 states, well then, you need not worry. This is called investment. We are giving up resources now to get more later. By having our station and our people be the first place you think of when you think of safety and plenty, it means you will come here often, likely bringing trade and news with you. Even if the whole of your numbers go their separate ways, you will all know this place as one that was good to you. You will be drawn back as resources, as customers, trading partners, and allies, which are some sort of resources if one squints, but undeniably different from a mound of metal, a pallet of food, or a pile of coin. And if we formally request aid from the undaunted, even better, because the station can get reimbursed on top of looking good and being paid for it due to lying about how much it cost. 2-4-2-3-4111 notes with a shrewd sound to his voice. That's called a markup, and that's assumed as part of the basic fee, Demon states, and we have contact. Your friend won't try to stop us, will they? No, the cameras are working, but look broken. We watched you. Good to know, Hoagie says as he directs the large ship to get within docking range of Octran's spin. 4111. There are multiple ships reversing course to dock. The station is likely calling back other Gathera vessels. I doubt all of you will want to be undaunted, so they'll likely be thrilled to take those that don't. And if we want neither the undaunted or other Gathera, we will find an answer, but those are the two easiest ones, Hoagie says. How many are left here? The Snick asks. A couple hundred, mostly in sectors 2 and 7, Janet says. So the fighting pits in the biotech area? The Snick presses. Yes, although they can be found all over the station. They even pop in here from time to time, Janet says before suddenly looking to her communicator. In fact, we're going to have one in here shortly. He's fond of my decaf coffee, but likes it frozen solid and with the mug. It's very odd. Frozen? I suppose for a reptile that would drop their internal temperature and work to put them to sleep. The Snick notes. Ma'am, I have to ask you to leave. You've interrupted far too many times and... I'm done. I won't say anything more, she promises. Anyways, it had been very easy to convince the Gathera clones to at least speak to the others, especially after a few looms were repurposed to making clothing of the proper size and strength. Overalls for now, later would come more. Oh, you are a handsome little boy, aren't you? How long have you been out of that pod? Month. We are created full grown. Memories placed within us. 1821-2-3208 states, as he is unsure of what to do or say. Third cycle is 2 weeks of age. Fourth is nearly finished. Do we know who did this? Who is trying to create more? Dead. Dead and thrown out. Some fled. 1821-2-3-208 answers. If they show themselves, they show themselves. You need a name, though. You all need names, the Gathara woman states. Perhaps borrowing some cloaken ones might help, Demon remarks. Things were going well for the moment. Apparently there were old provisions and standards among the Gathara for what to do with orphan children or men taken as plunder. Something the clones were falling into. Perhaps, she says, there is a tension. There are a total of 4 ships that have Gathara on them, but the resources required were simply not enough. The captains agreed they needed to help, but could not agree on who would carry how much of the burden, because none of them could support them all. But all of them wanted to seem to be the one who took the greatest burden, a prize of glory. She hadn't explained it to a level either Demon or Hoagie could fully understand. There were missing assumptions and implications that neither man had been filled in on. Good news, Hoagie says, getting off his communicator. We have a plan. You are familiar with Zalwar, are you not? We are. The Undaunted are asking to charter your ships to transport the Gathara men that join up with them to Zalwar, during which time they will also be paying for a cultural prompting so that these men have some idea as to what it means to be Gathara. For the actual training, housing, and raising, we have an arcology that is freshly built and has an enormous amount of space, Hoagie says. What is an arcology? 1821-2-3208 asks. Arcology, not arcology. An arcology is a city building. Think space station hatchling, but on a planet instead. Technically, everything here is one massive building, like that, Captain Halterak says. Zalwar is a very cold world. And it's very easy to make very warm clothing. The biggest advantage, though, is location. You can get almost anywhere from there, not to mention Gathara trade fleets move through so often that if they wish to cleave to their own, it would be trivial to find a crew and family. Halterak says before nodding. Yes, it is a good place. Cold, but good. Why is cold a bad thing? 1821-2-3208 asks. You have never left the ship, have you not? Never, only ship, and now this station. 1821-2-3208 admits. We are reptiles, child. Much of our body energy and heat comes from outside. We can use axiom to warm ourselves, but it exhausts, makes us seek sleep, Captain Halterak says before nodding. There's a crackle overhead. We've just had a solid dozen different ships just scream out of the axiom lane. Our new friends did. Get on alert. Someone might try something, Admin announces from overhead, and Halterak followed by her fellow natural-born Gathara, and then the clones growl. A false alarm, I hope. It was not. Those who weren't killed were back for what they thought was theirs, Janet says before suddenly smiling. And we have our next storyteller coming up. The big boy did fight after all. Observer Wu looks to the left to see what looks like an open jacket over a massive frame, huge loose jeans and a series of painted lines across an otherwise invisible chest and highlighting an unseeable face with a large muzzle on it. The unusual thing walks in, visibly ducking as it slips into the diner. Miss Eastman, my usual please. A voice that sounds more akin to grinding boulders says, of course, it's already ready and I'll cover it if you're willing to help Janet finish her story. Story, the Gathara man asks. He's here on official Earth business. That's the human homeworld, by the way, and he needs to know what so many humans have been up to. So why am I involved? The day you came to Octarin's spin was an odd one, so Observer Wu here needs to know what an odd day for this station is like before he sees what we consider normal. For contrast? Yes, that is part of it. Also how other people perceive humans and other such important details. How do I see humans? Well, you are living proof that strength of will and sheer gall can make up for just any physical disadvantage. The big and mostly invisible man says, "What's your name for the record?" I was 652-3-5000, youngest of my cycle. Now I am sardonic, translucent, fierce. Interesting name. It's whatever name we like for our first name. The middle is a cloaken name for the whole cycle, then broken down in the thousands for the last. 5,000 is bundled in with the 4,000s. Sardonic answers. So the one that spoke first with Joseph and Daniel would also be a translucent fierce? He is. He's on Zalwar now. He took a human name. Bartholomew Sardonic says, and Observer Wu nods. I'll have my usual after. I do like the story of our freedom and independence. I'm glad to hear it in both regards, Observer Wu says. Incidentally, what kind of life have you found here? I'm an announcer in the brawl yards. My voice carries well, and they love to hear it. Good for you, young man, Wu says with a smile. OOCS Into a Wider Galaxy, Part 165. The Buzz on the Spin. All right, so, for the sake of the record, I am Sardonic Translucent Fierce, formerly known as number 652-3-5000. I was one of many mass-created Gthera cloaken hybrids. During the awakening of the third cycle of 5,000, of which I am the youngest, my brothers and I rebelled against those who would make product of us and threw them back at a hideous cost of lives. The first cycle was almost completely exterminated, and we lost half of the second. My cycle lost only a few. Ironically, we lost an amount equal to the survivors of the first. Due to them still being produced in their pods, the fourth and final cycle was untouched and unharmed, Sardonic states. Furthermore, for the record, I am not a clone, but a unique individual created through a randomization algorithm on 2 genetic samples. They forcibly induced a Y chromosome during the process, and I emerged male. However, I am not legally a clone. While mass-produced, there was a very large amount of randomized factors, making me genetically unique among my cycle, and each cycle slightly different from the other cycles. And these differences are: I resemble one of the many major subgroups among the Gthera, if you disregard my cloaken features, of course, which is difficult as I naturally exist in a state of stealth. However, the Gthera homeworld has 3 large continents, an island chain, and 2 habitable poles. Ironically, the polar regions are the most physically interchangeable of ethnicities, despite being literally on opposite ends of the planet. However, I and the rest of Cycle 3 appear to be northern coastal continental. Cycle 1 appears to be a South Polar Gthera. Cycle 2 are roaming islanders, and Cycle 4 has emerged as Western Central Continentals. Very interesting, a bit more than I needed, but appreciated regardless, Observer Wu says and Sardonic chuckles. Side effect of my job, I go off on tangents to fill in background noise. Fights have pauses as fighters try to get a good grip and just what the hell they're dealing with, Sardonic says before chuckling a little. Now, where in the events of the day were you? A fleet had just showed up from the same lane that the ship carrying you and yours arrived from, Janet says, and Sardonic nods before clapping his hands together. Very well then, take a break, Miss Eastman. I've got this, Sardonic says. Now those poor foolish souls were not quite ready for what was coming next. Who could be? Janet asks and Sardonic shrugs. What happened? Observer Wu asks and Sardonic's face markings shifts in a way that Wu assumes he's smiling under there. One large central battleship, a logistical and repair ship and 10 gunboats. Blinky states, so nicknamed due to his habit to rapidly blink while either thinking fast or considering his odds for survival. Weapons hot? The station master Minnesy asks as her tentacles wave a little. Hot and ready, Blinky responds. I meant theirs. So did I. And ours? Hot and ready, both of us are willing and able to throw down, Blinky states, and she frowns. Really? Yes, really, unknown ships coming in and refusing to answer hails? I had weapons powered up for a time. Good, she answers. Now contact this fleet. We all know what they want, but we need to go through the motions. Yep, also we're prepping a teleport chamber. Everyone expects the laser, no one expects strategic warrior teleports. Some do, but if you go in with your hair done up, They'll get confused long enough for you to do something big, Minnesy says. Now call them. Sending request, Blinky states, and the main screen activates, showing a Lopen woman with a small token braided into her hair and projecting a symbol of teal swords crossed over an eye. Station Master Minnesy of Octron Spin, we are retrieving the property of our client. Do not interfere, and no one loses any profit or time. The Lopen states. Do I know you now? Of all times now, Minnesy demands as everything starts floating. Fuck's sake. Checking latest diagnostic for potential source, Blinky says with a growl. All right, we've got our likely suspect. I'm dinging the engineers. Minnesy kicks forward to drift a bit and then braces herself with her legs between two consoles and anchors herself in place. The camera is adjusted so it focuses on her upper body and head. Trouble in paradise? This station has more components, systems, and potential issues than your entire fleet trebled. Miss Admiral? Commodore, but thank you. I am Commodore Snarlmane. You do know that for a station like mine, anything that is unclaimed and in drone range is considered fair game. Minnesy says with her tentacles writhing. She's sending messages with a series of implants inside them. It's not unclaimed. We have been in pursuit of the vessel for some time. Pursuit implies it's actively fleeing. There are thieves inside it. That's not what my crew have reported, Minnesy answers. Do you really think this is smart of you? Snarlmane demands. Commodore, I am very bored. I have run this station for so long that even the most unusual and hectic days are completely routine. To challenge myself, I tried to see if I could keep this station running while sleep-talking. I can. Threatening me. Threatening my station is the threat of a good time. My command crew will take you seriously. But they answer to me. And I have been through this situation so many times that if they were all played back-to-back, would take 2 years to get through it all. And no, there would be no breaks for eating or sleeping. Snarlmane's eyes are narrowed as gravity returns to the bridge. The repair crews are successful. You talk big, little girl. However, the only thing that's kept me in this conversation was the gravity cutting out. What caused it, by the way? Report should be here in thermal capacitor slid out of position and overloaded its neighbor. Knock-on effect hit our gravity. Blinky says Minnesy nods before stretching. I'm going to take a nap. Entertain our guests as you see fit. Do it undaunted style for all I care. My heir will be here soon to begin training and assuming control of Octron Spin. Blow them out of the sky, take their ships, or subvert them into your own wives. I do not care. Minnesy says, sauntering off. If anything actually noteworthy happens, wake me. And what is something noteworthy by your standards, ma'am? Another 3 fleets dropping on us without warning, galactic war breaking out, a new species being discovered inexplicably close to us, or a sudden change in galactic territories that place us in the jurisdiction of one of the nearby polities. A potentially new one popping up that has us inside it counts too. Minnesy lists out as she calmly walks off the bridge and into her personal quarters. Blinky shrugs, then plays with his console a bit. The view switches to him. All right then, I'm Station Administrator Vincent Palacios. I am also an undaunted operative. We know what's on that ship and we don't care for slave-taking. The poor men inside have been offered undaunted sanctuary and are legal citizens of our military now. They're not slaves, they're products. People are born, products are produced. You can only enslave people. And the legal status of clones being the child or sibling of the original? By default, no less. Blinky asks in the tone of speaking to a complete simpleton. These are not clones. She snaps out immediately before gathering herself and then merely glaring. These creatures are created by computer algorithm to resemble 2 distinct species. They are not copies of any person, nor the children of any person. While the fact that if you scour the galaxy enough, you might find matches for the DNA and RNA patterns within the product, they were not created based on or with the aid of any Gathara or Cloaken. They are not Gathara or Cloaken. Ma'am, if you have to jump through that many hoops to morally justify something, then it's not really justified. You're just pretending it is. Potentially the ship itself is yours, but none of the life forms on it are property, Blinky asserts. Now at this point, I and many others were convinced the station was on our side. But it wasn't quite enough. Them showing us this negotiation meant we understood we needed to move quickly. Sarconic says, to what end? Our unfinished brothers still in their pods. The station was offering us protection, but could it offer it to the unfinished? If not, they needed to be moved and hidden within the station. Thankfully, there is more than just one group here, and several of them hold a powerful affection for helpless men. Things were moving fast, very fast. The large cargo ship, which the record stated was poorly named as the Unwielding Bunker, misspelling and all, had the gunboats hovering close and the battleship in effective range of all its weapons. Both sides were waiting for the other to make a mistake. The whole time they and their new allies were moving quickly. It would only be so long until the mercenaries realized that the talks were a simple play for time as they grew into a more advantageous position. Now, what happened after that? That was scary. 652-3-5000 was not going to be caught unprepared, not when the only brothers he had younger than himself needed protecting. The first cycle had taught him through blood and death no less, that the old protect the young. And he is younger than all but these 5,000. The two humans who had arrived the first time were with them as they raced through the ship, doing something in the axiom to blur things to scanning equipment, they claim. The two of them carrying large, for them, bundles as they kept pace with the considerably longer strides of his brothers and himself. Then they reach it, the chambers. Divided into 1,000 each, the rooms filled with 200 each 5-part berthing pods. Each one labeled, listed, and contained. Each one fully supplied and powered. Each one a mere week from producing another brother. Each one sealed and shielded, for at this stage even small amounts of light might damage the delicate life within. What do we do? 652-3-5000 asks, and Demon hands him a bundle. What is this? A disassembled portal door. Match up the symbols so we can get people in here to safely move these pods. There's more than enough room on the station in between the Gathara captains. We undaunted and more sympathetic station residents, we have the space for you all. Hoagie states, why? Why what? Why help us? Our burdens are not yours. And now that you are under threat from those who want us, why help us? You will soon get a chance to study history. When you do so, pay attention to certain philosophies. See how long the ones that espouse generosity, kindness, and caring last, compared to those that espouse a more "fuck you got mine" philosophy. Thinking and acting like that can help in the moment to moment, but it leaves destruction in its wake and makes few friends. Eventually, you have to spend what you've stolen just to keep people from murdering you outright for things. Hoagie says, it's why pirate stations get by so well. Anyone too stupid to keep their wanton cruelty to themselves ends up with something sharp and something vital in short order, where those that aid others find themselves surrounded by those that stop that sharp thing from reaching them without being asked. Think of it like this. After today, will anything other than my attacking you make you wish any harm upon me? I do not think so. And would you let me explain myself if someone said I did something awful? Yes. 652-3-5000 says, then that is my benefit. It's not a coin, but it is of value, Hoagie says as he helps set up the portal. Come on, we go to the next chamber. Demon has 3, but I still have 2. I still do not fully understand. 652-3-5000 says as a small army of tiny green women rush out to start working on the pods. He does not know to call them gobes yet. You could have pushed us away and we never would have been your problem. Are you really arguing for us handing you over? No, trying to find understanding. Not everyone does things for money or glory. Some of us seek other things no amount of glory or wealth can give them. And many find it in helping others. Hoagie answers. Janet's beaming smile and air of pride is downright physical as she goes from walking about to maintain her diner to outright gliding as she does so. Someone is proud. Why wouldn't I be? I raised him so very well. Janet gushes as she brings out a small tray with a frozen cold mug of coffee held in stasis. When you finish up the story, just deactivate the stasis and it will be ready. Thank you kindly, Miss Eastman, Sarconic says. But it's not finished yet, because Commodore Snarlmane may be a mercenary and easy to provoke into an argument. But she's not an idiot. She had noticed the portals being set up and was already moving to counter